Right, let me have a quick look at these hero talents. Apparently, this is really bad. But I will not be... oh, warriors here. Okay. Where are the new ones? Yeah, I'm interested, because they've been very mixed, is what we can say. Mixed. Have we got just the new ones? Wowhead's got like a massive article. What's the new ones? Mixed. Some have just been like random passives. Some have been really cool. Oh, it's a full blue post. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. It's actually a blue post, not Wowhead's post. Awesome. Oh my god, this is so much information. Blizz, I preferred it when you stopped communicating. It was really good. It was awesome when you just stopped telling us anything. Okay. Yeah, typing Andes. Hero talents are new, self-contained. Yeah, we know what hero talents are. These are our bonus thingies. Okay. 11 nodes in a hero tree. The first of these unlocks with 71. You earn 1 per level, so you get all of them by level 80. Hero talents will have starter builds available and saved builds similar to the talent system. Excellente. Maintaining freedom to choose. Oh, how the times have changed. We want players to be free to choose the hero talent tree that has the gameplay, visuals, and flavor they prefer. Our goal is for both options to feel similarly effective in raids, dungeons, and plus in PvP. We're working to avoid abilities or bonuses that could make certain trees feel required. My. How things have changed. Okay. Show us the hero talents. Okay, over the coming months, we'll show them off. Elun's Chosen. Is this the one? Oh, this is Balance. We saw the Resto one last time, didn't we? Okay, so Druids have 4. They have Druid of the Claw, Wild Stalker, Keeper of the Grove, and Elun's Chosen. So we saw Keeper of the Grove last time, if I remember correctly. So this is Elun's Chosen. The Balance/Guardian is how they're mixing them up. Okay. Balance. So full moon calls down 2 minor moons that generate astral power. Boring. Lunar Beam now causes you to leech life equal to 10% of all damage dealt to enemies within the beam. That's a cool defensive. That's really nice. Fury of Elune now ends with a flash of energy doing damage. Okay, sure. Moonfire and Starfire generate additional astral power. All right. 3 automatic Moonfires from Galactic Guardian generate rage. Cool. Moonfire deals 10% more damage. Fun. Bear form and Moonkin form reduce arcane damage taken by 6% and all other magic damage taken by 3%. I really wish you would give us polar bear form or astral bear form. Something. I would love a bear form that swaps between magic mitigation and physical mitigation. I think that would be... it's always something I wish they'd do with Guardian, is you have another form that's more magical damage reduction. Something like that. That would be really cool. Such opportunities with Druids. Moondust. Enemies affected by Moonfire are slowed by 30%. Ooh. Hero talents are coming in the War Within, so it'll be the new expansion. We should get the alpha pretty soon, so we'll start seeing things happening. Using Wild Charge and Bear Form on Moonkin incurs a 3-second shorter cooldown. Alright, a bit of mobility or slow. Cool. Enemies damaged by Full Moon, Fury of Elune or Lunar Beam take 4% increased damage from you for 6 seconds. Alright. Always nice for min-maxers to have a little Colossus smash window. Each non-arcane damaging ability you use increases the damage of your next arcane damage. So something to manage. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. Something to track, keep an eye on, and then you can utilize it better. That's alright. Stellar Command. Increased damage by 15%. Increased damage by 30%. Increased damage. Okay, boring. Starfire deals 40% increased damage to its primary target, but no longer triggers Solar Eclipse. Thrash now deals arcane damage. Ooh. Making Thrash a magical attack. Okay. That's an interesting one. That's alright. That's okay. The Light of Elune. Moonfire damage has a chance to call down the Fury of Elune to follow your target for 3 seconds. Oh, RNG defensives. Generates astral power or rage over its duration. Yeah, because Fury of Elune also gives that life leech, right? Oh, that was Lunar Beam. Okay. Same thing. Incarnation, Chosen of Elune and Incarnation Guardian of Ursoc increase arcane damage from spells. I like that the mix of Balance and Guardian to make like a magical tank. It's pretty cool. Convoke, the spirit's duration and number of spells cast increased by 25%. And then the big finale is the Eternal Moon. Further increase the power of boundless moonlight. New moon and half moon, now also call down a minor moon. That's no moon. Lunar Beam increases mastery by an additional 8%, deals 30% increased damage and lasts longer. And the Flash of Energy now generates 6 astral power or 6 rage. Yeah, many, many moons. Moons and moons and moons, which makes sense. It's the balanced Guardian feel. It actually feels like it lacks Guardian stuff besides, like, the Glistening Fur. It feels more Moonkin than Guardian, rather than an equal mix. The rest of the Guardian stuff is, like, more rage. I mean, with getting the magical attack on Thrash is nice. A lot of filler in this one, though. A lot of filler, but still some things to keep an eye on. All right. Not bad. Should make the gameplay... I think overall this makes the gameplay more fun, though. A lot more astral power for balance. A lot more rage. A lot more leech. I think gameplay-wise this will have... will feel good, even if they don't read particularly exciting. I'm going to read it this way. All right, so Wildstalker is the Feral Resto mix. Rip and Rake damage has a chance to cause Bloodseeker vines to grow on the victim, bleeding them. Ah, so your bleed and your bleed cause a bleed. Nice. Nice. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So as long as if you bleed and you bleed, you cause a bleed. Pretty good. Wild growth, regrowth, and efflorescence has a chance to cause the symbiotic blooms to grow on the target and put an extra hot on them. So your hots... Your bleed and your bleed cause a bleed, and your hots and your hots cause a hot. Nice. Nice. Makes sense. I like it. It's passive, though, so it'll just be a thing. It's entirely passive. But your bleeds and your bleeds cause a bleed, and your hots cause a hot. Cool. Rip damage increased. Ferocious bite damage increased. Rejuve increased.
Surprised Pikachu face.
Efflorescence and life... Okay, boring and horrible. Tiger's Fury and attacking from Prowl increase the chance of Shred Rake and Brutal Slash to crits by 8%. Interesting percentage. Casting Regrowth increases the chance of your periodic heals to crits, so passive crit bonus. Okay. Something you can utilize there as a healer, though, for sure. Damage and healing while in cat form increased by 5%. Ugh. Dull. Dull, and dull. Moonfire and Sunfire damage increased. Okay. Wild Growth and Rake last longer. Okay. The Entangling Vortex. Enemies pulled into Ursals are rooted in place for 6 seconds. Damage may cancel this effect. Alright, we do like a good Ursals. During Barkskin, your movement speed is increased by 10%. I like that. And every second flowers grow beneath your feet that heal up to 3 injured allies. Oh, that sounds really funny. Like, as a resto druid, you pop Barkskin because big damage is coming in, and then you fucking do the Jimmy dance on top of everybody. Ideally, you're in tree form while you do it as well. I like that. That's kind of funny. I want to see druids doing that. I want to see a fucking druid just doing mad laps around because they've got Barkskin on, just like fucking rat jamming all over the place. Healing you receive is increased by 10%. Okay. And your regrowth on yourself is increased. Okay. Not bad. Bloodseeker vines and symbiotic blooms last longer. So your bleeds when you bleed that you cause a bleed last longer when you bleed. And the same goes for the hots when you hot. That gives you an extra hot. Also lasts longer. Sweet. When a target afflicted by Bloodseeker vines dies, the vines jump to a nearby unaffected target for their remains. So your bleeds can jump. So when you bleed and you bleed to cause a new bleed, your bleed can then jump to another guy and make them bleed. Swag. Each time Bloodseeker vines increase the damage your abilities deal by 2%. Each active symbiotic bloom increases the healing of your life bloom wild growth. Okay. Bloody hell. Alright, so a lot of passives in here. When Bloodseeker vines or symbiotic blooms grow, they have a 10% chance to cause another growth. Okay. So now, when you put a bleed and a bleed on, it causes another bleed, and that bleed could jump to another guy and make him bleed. But if they're all bleeding, then you get another bleed. They have a 10% chance to cause another growth of the same type to immediately grow on a nearby. So now your bleeds cleave. Yeah, you get cleavy bleeds. Okay. I like this. I like the fact that, like, thematically this makes sense. Is that you're causing, like, all these spiky vines to grow around your target and get some passive cleave out of it. Feral Frenzy immediately causes the vine to grow, which plays into the damage bonus. Casting Regrowth that is made instant via Nature's Swiftness causes a symbiotic bloom to grow on the target as well. Okay. Well, it says 10% chance. It's a 10% chance when they grow, so I assume that's on the actual... What's the chance of you getting the Bloodseeker Vine? Does it say? No, it doesn't say. It just says Rip and Rake damage. So, okay, so you have... To be fair, this should proc a lot, because these bleeds tick quite often. So you should have the Bloodseeker Vines procking quite a lot and naturally cleaving pretty quickly. So even though it only says 10%, that 10%, they both of them are ticking. So I imagine it will happen pretty regularly. When they expire, okay, so when the thorns expire, they explode. Exploding thorns. How does that work? Dealing physical damage to nearby enemies. Okay, so now we've got exploding vines and thorns. Damage reduced above 5 targets. Alright, so you get a passive little AoE bomb. So this reminds me a little bit of that rogue poison bomb thing. When symbiotic blooms expire, flowers grow around their target, healing them. Okay. Each active vine increases the damage your abilities by 2%. Okay, so this can spread into AoE. Each active symbiotic bloom increases. I wonder if this will create a wild variance in feral AoE. Like, my sprouts didn't sprout. My bleeds didn't bleed the bleed. And so my vines didn't spread on this pack. And, I mean, it's 2%, but 2% can add up on many targets. Bloodseeker vines increase the damage. It doesn't work with Thrash, does it? It's only... Okay, so Thrash isn't going to put it up. Okay. Bloodseeker vines increase the damage your abilities deal to effectively by 10%. Is that on top of the 2%? Yeah, so this is going to be a buff on you. And that's going to be a debuff on them. So that will stack. So let's say you manage to get vines on, I assume with the proc rate. So I imagine the gameplay is going to be spreading rakes around and trying to get the vines to go. Yeah, this is going to stack pretty heavy. Interesting. They don't last very long though, right? What's the base? So they last 6 seconds and then it's extended by 2 down here. Yeah, okay. So they last 8 seconds. So you'll have these really sort of up and down peaks and troughs of DPS potentially, unless it's consistently up on a certain amount of targets. I'll have to see how that plays out. Either way, it's a lot of passives. Oh, this is Evoker. They're getting Scalecommander, which is a mix of Aug and Devastation. Empower spells cause your next eruption to strike up to 3 targets. When striking less than 3 targets, Aug is definitely, or Evoker is definitely my weakest knowledge base. When striking less than 3 targets, eruption damage is increased by 25% for each missing target. Okay.
I thought hero talents were supposed to feel unique and powerful. You know, make you feel like a hero instead of what seems like passives.
I mean, they have to market it. You can't call it, like, the banal talents, right? That doesn't make sense. You can't call it the banal talents that we're adding in. That doesn't work. Yeah, you can't call it that. That's a terrible name. You can't do that. Remember, a Death Knight is a hero class. Hey, George. Big cuddles, brother. Alright, Devastation. Empower causes spells cause your next Disintegrate to strike up to 3 targets. Ooh. Bzzz, lasers. When striking less than 3 targets, Disintegrate damage is increased, so it works single target as well. Okay. Black spells deal increased damage. Alright, racist. Mass Disintegrate and Mass Eruption mark your primary target for destruction for 10 seconds. You and your allies have a chance to trigger a bombardment when attacking marked targets, dealing volcanic damage. Okay, so you get a primary target debuff. Cool. Entering combat grants a charge of burnout, causing your next living flame to cast instantly. Okay, a ramp up. Melt, armor, deep breath, and breath of eons cause enemies to take 20% increased damage from bombardment and essence. That's okay, so another window of DPS. Bombardments reduce the cooldown of deep breath and breath of eons by 1 second for each target struck. Okay, so we get a nice AoE buff. For each section you're in combat, as your strike and living flame deal increased damage up to 50%. So it takes a minute to ramp up. I already feel annoyed by evokers bitching that they're going out of combat. Like, it's certainly an M+. And then, like, just being pissed off that you're getting me out of combat. That's the first one that's given me pause here. Leave one mob alive, maybe. Yeah, I mean, all you get from Onslaught is when you go into combat, you get an instant cast Living Flame. But that's not gonna be as big as maintaining a 50% damage buff on Living Flames and Azure Strikes. Hey, be good, Matt. Be awesome, dude. Obsidian Scales reduces damage taken by additional 5%. All right. Knocking an enemy up or backward reduces their damage done to you by done to you, so it's not an AoE debuff. Essence abilities expend bombardments, which all plays into everything. Okay. While hovering, damage taken from AoE is reduced by 10%. Deep Breath and Breath of Eons reset the cooldown of Hover. Spicy. Some very nasty AoE damage out there. Okay. 10% is no laughing matter. Deep Breath and Breath of Eons can now be steered in your desired direction. In addition, Monka Steer. In addition, Deep Breath and Breath of Eons burn targets for volcanic damage over 12 seconds. Okay, there's got to be some really funky deep breaths going on, isn't there? I imagine that most evokers are happy we didn't have this at Razageth. Can you imagine? Remember the Razageth, like, deep breaths? Where they were, like, picture perfect, so they could abuse the fact that it still remembered where you were during the knockback, so you could do the whole platform and all that. And now there's going to be somebody fucking, like, Tindrill's fucking going all over the place. Just like, oh, shit. Whoa, hold on to your butts. We're going everywhere. That would be kind of funny. Oh, the Pallies. The Holy Ret Tree. Okay, Sunspots. Holy Prism. Never liked Holy Prism. Causes your next two Holy Power spending abilities to create a sunspot on your target, dealing radiant damage or healing over 8 seconds. Alright, so a passive heal. Okay. Wake of Ashes causes your next two Holy Power spending abilities to create a sunspot on your target, dealing damage over 8 seconds. Okay. 10% of Sunspot's damage and healing radiates to... So it's just passive damage. Okay. Sure. Every 5 seconds, your next Sunspot's damage or healing is increased. Stacking up to 10 times. Morningstar stacks twice as fast while out of combat. So it just has this constant little roller coaster of 5%, 50% damage. Why? Well, no, because it says every 5 seconds, so I don't think this means in combat or out of combat. This is just going to keep doing its thing all the time. It's just that when you're out of combat, it's going to stack up so you have like an insane or a stronger burst. I don't think... It's not about being out of combat. It's... I mean, you will always have this on boss pull, obviously. It just seems odd that you're just going to have these peaks and troughs. There's something about Blizzard design that really hates consistent damage output. And I don't know why, because I find it personally very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. They add so much unpredictability and variance into your damage. And it always feels odd, and this leads to like more god pulls looking absurd compared to the previous pull. Like, if these line up for multiple people at the same time, it's always a bit strange. Like, you can say for this during a boss fight, you will always start at capped, so the roller coaster should be predictable, right? This won't matter in a boss fight by any means, because you will always start at the top, and then it, like, will do its job. While a sunspot is active, your holy power spenders deal 10% increased damage or healing. Alright. Eternal Flame replaces Wog. Heals an ally immediately and with a hot. Healing increased one on yourself. Okay. Luminosity. Critical strike chance of Holy Shock and Light of Dawn is increased by 10%. Crit chance of Hammer and Divine Storm is increased. Blech. Okay. I only say blur to this. Some people got upset in the YouTube comments like with me saying blur to these. I'm saying this because you're balanced around these. These aren't... They're like the artifact weapons. You're balanced around having these. You're not actually getting stronger. Otherwise, just picture it this way. If they made a boss without these kind of like damage profiles in mind, then the bosses would just die because you gained all this power. So you're actually technically weaker than before you get these talents. So they can make you... You're actually balanced around having this stuff at the end. I hope that makes sense. Nobody thought with their Fire Mage artifact that they were actually going to have a Pyroblast that was stronger by like 10% than what the game intended, right? That's how Fire Mages were balanced. Sunspots reduce the movement speed of enemies and increase the movement speed of allies by 20%. That's a large movement speed buff from the Holy Pallies. How many people does Holy Prism hit? That's a significant... it comes from Holy Prism, right? Yeah, Holy Prism. Yeah, I thought it was 5. That's quite a speed boost. 20% speed boost on a Holy Prism cooldown is pretty good. Movement speed increased by 5% while above 80% health. When your health is brought below 35%, your movement speed is increased by up to 40% for 5 seconds. Suspender after Prism. Holy Prism causes your next 2 holy power spending abilities to create a sunspot. Oh, so you can put this out on a lot of people. Yeah, you're right. That's pretty cool. Yeah, exactly. You can Light of Dawn or whatever. I assume you could put this out on many people. Yeah, it's on your target, but if you're doing an AoE spender like Light of Dawn, that's going to hit all those targets, right? I would think so. It's not just going to be on one person. Yeah, I mean, I think this is just another solution to a Stampeding Roar or the Windrush Totem. After you cast Holy Prism, gain Divine Purpose. After you cast Wake of Ashes, classic. Your haste is increased by 4% for 12 seconds each time you apply a Sunspot. Multiple stacks may overlap. Oh, I like this. This can allow for some really good Paladin gameplay. This could set up some really good Paladin gameplay for people managing this properly. Yeah, little things like this do matter. Like, this one is not boring. This allows for some pretty cool stuff. If you know what you're doing. This allows a lot of, like, better players to do better. I like this one. Holy Shock and Light of Dawn have a 50% chance to cast again. We've seen that before. Hammer of Wrath can do it again. We've seen that before. Sun's Avatar. Oh god, if you turned into the monkey thing from Bloons. That would actually be dope. I would actually petition Blizzard to allow some sort of like Paladin transmog where you turn into the sun god from Bloons just temporarily. During Avenging Wrath, you become linked to your sunspots, causing radiant damage to enemies or healing to allies that pass through the beams. It is going to be like the monkey. Reduced beyond 5 targets. Activating Avenging Wrath applies 4 sunspots onto nearby allies or enemies and increases sunspots damage and healing by 20%. This is like a dis ramp, right? Am I reading this correctly? So you can put out sunspots, gain a massive haste buff, and then pop wings, which will put more sunspots out, and then you should have a bunch of fucking bright yellow lines shooting out of you that you can position correctly to do a really nice heal. This sounds really good. I like the sound of this. This sounds visual and effective at the same time, which is the 2-for-1 combo. Giga Glimmer. Yeah, we can call it Giga Glimmer. This sounds great. Okay, that sounds really fun. I like that a lot. I imagine with the AoE burst as well, this is pretty cool. I like this. Prot Retri. Okay, so the DPS tank. Eye of Tears replaced with Hammer of Light for 12 seconds after it is cast. And Wake of Ashes is replaced with Hammer of Light as well. What is Hammer of Light then? Hammer down your enemy with the power of the light, dealing holy damage to the target and up to 4 nearby targets. Additionally, calls down Empyrean hammers from the sky to strike 3 nearby enemies for holy damage. It go boom. That sounds sick. That sounds really good. That sounds pretty fun, actually. Like, I always thought Wake of Ashes looked kind of flimsy, where you kind of, like, went... Considering what it actually did, Wake of Ashes always struck me as, like... Am I the only one? It just didn't feel mighty, Wake of Ashes. The Templar's Watch. So if you're a tank, Hammer of Light and Eye of Tear deal 30% increased damage when striking only one enemy. This amount is reduced by 6% for each additional target struck. That's fine. Rats, Hammer of Light and Wake of Ashes deal 30% increased damage. Okay, so a single target or AoE buff, or just a passive. For Whom the Bell Tolls. Divine Toll grants up to 100% increased damage to your next 3 judgments when striking only one enemy. The amount is reduced by 20% for each additional target struck. Okay, so you get like a burst window. Or you get your choice. You get like passive damage or a burst window. All right. After casting a Hammer of Light, you call down an Empyrean Hammer on a nearby target every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. Some guy just keeps getting dink-donked. Some poor guy just keeps getting dink-donked. Some dude just keeps getting dink-donked. When Empyrean Hammer critically strikes, 60% of his damage. Oh no, some guy gets dink-donked and AoEs everything near him. Enemies hit by this effect deal 5% reduced damage to you for 8 seconds. Okay. Yeah, a lot of hardy jail for these guys. Sacrosanct Crusade. That's a word we don't see often enough. That's like Vatican only. When you cast the Eye of Tear, gain Shield of Vengeance at 10% effectiveness. Okay. When you cast Wake of Ashes, you gain the shield at 10%. All right. Crusader Strike, Hammer of Wrath, and Judgment extend the duration of Shake the Heavens by 1 second. Oh, no. So we keep getting dink-donked. This has to not have a ludicrous animation. Right? This needs a good animation, but not an obnoxious animation. As these enemies are just getting constantly dink-donked from the skies, right? Yeah, it needs to not have, like, a completely ridiculous dink-donk constantly happening all the time. Like, super bright and yellow. Just constantly, like, bashing on them. Oh, my God. That would be kind of funny. The Bonds of Fellowship. You receive 20% less damage and from blessings. You receive 20% less damage from sacrifice, and each time its target takes damage, you gain movement speed. Interesting interaction. Sounds great in PvP. Divine Steed lasts longer and increases your movement speed. Okay, Unrelenting Charger is good shit. Endless Wrath. Calling down an Empyrean Hammer has a 10% chance to reset the cooldown of Hammer of Wrath and make it usable on any target regardless of their health. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, so the Dink Donks also cause procs. So you can Dink Donk on your Dink Donk. You're just dinking and you're donking all day. Alright, this sounds really fun to play. It also reminds me very much of like the WoD Paladin playstyle, which was just if you proc, then you proc your proc, and you proc and proc and proc and proc. If anybody remembers the WoD Rep Paladin, which was just you proc on your procs and you proc. and you just suddenly do 1 billion damage. Do you remember? It was a kind of goofy spec. It was really goofy. It was just all over the place. It was just procs and procs and procs and procs. You made a rating wad? I can see that, Chris. I can see that. Just procs. All the buttons light up. Whee! Casting Judgment increases the damage of hammer by 10% and multiple apps. That's boring. You want procs. Yeah. You want procs for days. Hammerfall. I mean, everything here is Hammerfall so far. Shield of the Righteous and World of Glory calls down a Dink Donk. While Shake the Heavens is active, this effect calls down more Dink Donks. Retribution. Templar's Verdict and Divine Storm calls down a Dink Donk. While Dink Donk is active, this effect calls more Dink Donks down. Oh my god, this sounds so fun. It sounds so stupid. I think we might be maining a Paladin in War Within, just so I can Dink Donk the Dinkers. Hammer of Light applies judgment to the targets and increases your haste by 15% for 6 seconds. Yo! Zoom Zoom. Zoom Zoom Dink Donks. Additionally, Eye of Tyr grants 3 holy power. Mega Dink Donks. Light's Deliverance. When you gain a stack of Light's Deliverance, when you call down a Dink Donk, at 50 stacks of Dink Donk, it casts Hammer of Light, casting Hammer of Light empowers you for 12 seconds to proc it again. Okay. A predictable proc. This one sounds the most stupid and fun to me so far. Although I will say that, what's it called? Herald of the Sun sounds fun as... Paladin's looking pretty good. Paladin's looking like it's going to be pretty goofy and fun. I kind of like it. This sounds like a guilty pleasure spec to me. Paladin got stonks. Paladin stonks rising. Alright. Did we get another Pally one? Oh, rogues. No one gives a shit about rogues. Fucking boring. Miserable cunts. Unseen Blade. Alright, everybody put your black eyeliner on. Here we go. Fate now grants 2 combo points. Oof. Alright, at least we're adding a spell to the rotation, I guess. And quickly slashes with the Unseen Blade, dealing damage to enemies. Targets struck are phased for 5 seconds. Okay, what's phased? Phased enemies take more damage from you and cannot parry. Interesting. I don't think they've ever put anything in the game that prevents parry before. That's interesting. Yeah, it's only your attacks. This allows for some positioning flexibility. Positioning flexibility is big. Huh. It would be a very niche environment in PvE this could be used, but it has potential. Surprising attacks. While wearing a towel in the gym, make sure you don't bend over, otherwise a blizzard. Oh, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. Attacks that generate combo points deal increased critical strike damage to phased targets. Okay. Smoke. You step outside for 5 minutes because you lost the roll on that epic weapon. The warrior who took it is a bitch. Kid hell. I think whoever made these rogue ones took something personal. You take 5% reduced damage from phased targets. Okay. Feint reduces AoE damage by an additional 10%. Christ alive. That's a lot. Unseen Blade and Killing Spree grant 3% mastery for 5 seconds. Applications may overlap. Okay. An Unseen Blade and Secret Technique grant 3% mastery for 5 seconds. Multiple applications overlap. Okay, some burst window management. Like it. Tricks. Threat redirect duration is increased to an hour. Okay. All right. I mean, that feels like it's for the lazy, but sure, why not? Oh, I can honestly see this causing problems with Tommy doesn't give a shit. Tommy sticks this on one of the 2 tanks in the raid just so he can put it up and forget about it. And he's constantly like redirecting ads to the wrong target. And the other tank is like, dude, why the fuck do these ads keep running at me when I'm not even near them? What the fuck is going on, man? Blizzard, I have to ask you though, doesn't this cause potential issues in M+ and stuff? Right? Like, could this rogue run to the other side of a dungeon and redirect something to, like, miles away? Yeah, there's potential trolling here, right? You get some obnoxious rogue who puts his tricks on and goes to, like, stealth through something and pulls a ton of trash from miles and miles away. This feels very abusable in some way. I'd have to see how it works, whether there's a range limit on it, but this feels very abusable. Don't be suspicious. Blind and Shroud have 10% reduced cooldown. Pickpocket and Sap range increased by 10 yards, okay? Killing Spree causes targets to be phased for 5 seconds. And Secret Technique adds phase for 5 seconds, alright? 1,000 cuts. A Slice and Dice grants 10% additional attack speed and gives your autos a chance to trigger Unseen Blade. Cool. Flicker Strike. Taking this in Path of Exile makes you a Giga Chad, especially if it's the first time you've played. Congratulations, you have won the internet. Oh, there it is. Salutations to me on that one. Taking AoE damage while Feint is active or dodging while Evasion is active triggers the blade. This effect may only occur... Oh, this is nice, actually. This means that even though Feint is a part of the rotation now, because it grants 2 combo points, it's seemingly if you time it a little bit better, then you can probably get a lot more out of it. That sounds pretty cool. Nimble Flurry. Killing Spree deals 10% more damage and has 10% reduced cooldown. Okay, boring. Distract now creates a cloud of smoke for 10 seconds. And its cooldown is increased to 90 seconds. Attacks from within the cloud afflict targets with phase... Oh, they're turning Distract into a DPS cooldown. Nothing I like more than finding an unused spell and giving it a twist, instead of just adding more spells to the bar. I really like this. People have had Distract bound since vanilla. This is great. This is really good. A spell that just randomly sits on your spell bar that rarely gets used now has some interaction. I love this kind of design. This makes me very happy. No scruples. Finishing moves have a 10% increased chance to crit phase targets, which is potentially just overall better and makes this boring. The Elaborate Twirl. Increase the duration of Flawless form by 2 seconds. Oh, very nice. And the Coup de Grace. Outlaw. After 4 strikes with Unseen Blade, as your next dispatch will be performed as a Coup de Grace, dealing 40% increased damage. If the primary target is phased, gain 5 stacks of Flawless form. Okay, so something nice to track with a nice bonus on it. Sub. After 4 strikes with Unseen Blade, your next Eviscerate or Black Powder will be performed as a Coup de Grace. Thank God we're not getting that stupid backflip spell. What the fuck was that thing called? Was it in WoD? And it could just miss. You remember that fucking thing? Death from above. Yeah. It just wouldn't work. Oh, God, what a pain. It looked really cool, but, like, it just wouldn't work. Like, too many times, it would just fucking miss. Yeah, it was just so annoying sometimes. It really was. I mean, it looked fantastic, but still. Rogue's okay. Oh, the locks. Diabolist. Mon ami. So this is a mix of demo and destruction. Do we get a badass pet? I think that's all demo locks want, is a badass pet. Spending soul shards grants diabolic ritual for 20 seconds. When the ritual is active, each soul shard spent reduces its duration by 1 second. Okay. When the ritual expires, you gain demonic art. Oh, so you want to reduce it as fast as possible. Or you can manage it. Ooh. Causing your next ability that costs soul shards to summon an Overlord, Mother of Chaos, or a Pit Lord. Yeah! That unleashes a devastating attack against your enemies. Oh, me like! Hey, a good Warlock can make really good use of this. Yeah, I would like to see the likes of... the Echo and Liquid utilize this effectively. That could be really cool. If it's badass. Okay, so what does Mother of Chaos do? A Mother of Chaos empowers your next Shadow Bolt or Incinerate to become Demon Fire Barrage. And that is channel a barrage of 4 Shadow Bolts at 150% effectiveness towards the enemy target of... Oh, it's going to look like Multi-Strike. Oh, that's going to look sick. Oh, God, I miss Warlock Multi-Strike. God, seeing Multi-Strike Chaos Bolts was always dope. Ooh, I like that. The Touch of Rancora. The ritual increases the damage of your next ability that costs soul shards by 30% and its cast time by 50%. Okay. There's a lot of opportunity for good players here. Enemies damaged by your Overlord have their souls cloven, increasing damage taken by your pets by 10%. Alright, so they couldn't think of anything for that one. Fair enough. Soul Etched Circles. You always gain the benefit of Soul Burn when casting Demonic Circle Teleport, increasing your movement speed by 50% and making you immune to snares and roots for 6 seconds. Alright. Annihilan's Bellow. Howl of Terror cooldown is increased by 15 seconds and range is reduced by 5 yards. Okay. The Cruelty of Kirkzan. Nether Portal, Tyrant, and Infernal grant the ritual and reduced its duration by 3 seconds. Oh, so that's really nice. That's cool. So you get to pull off your DPS cooldown and then go straight into the ritual for the bonus. Nice. Infernal Machine. Your Soul Shard spending abilities decrease the duration of the ritual by 1 additional second, while your Tyrant... Oh, the burst here seems like it's going to be wacky. This feels like it's going to have crazy burst when you pop your DPS cooldown. Warlocks might bang during that window. Unending Resolve heals you. Okay. Infernal Bulwark, so it's a defensive, so it's fine. Flames of Zoroth. Fire damage increased by 2%. And damage dealt by your demons is increased by 2%, sure. Felguard and Cataclysm gain additional effects. Grimo Felguard lasts 3 seconds longer and its cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds. Okay, spin to win, baby. Casting Cataclysm summons an Overfiend that casts Chaos Bolt 2 times at 80% effectiveness. These Warlocks are going to look really visually cool. Really visually cool. This is one of the most fun trees I've seen so far. And with a lot to play with. Hand of Gul'dan deals 15% increased damage for each soul shard spent. Okay. Enemies marked by Havoc take 5% increased damage from a single target. Sure. Ruination. Summoning a Pit Lord causes your next Hand of Gul'dan or Chaos Bolt to become Ruination instead. Call down a demon-infested meteor from the depths of the twisting nether, dealing chaos damage on impact to all enemies within 8 yards of the target and summoning 3 wild imps. I think this and Dink Donk, this one looks like it takes a lot more skill on the face of it. Like, a really, really good player is just going to be like, yes. We might see... I mean, this is a tree that I almost foresee getting changed because the difference between the good and the bad players is too wide. Similar to what's happened with a number of specs in the past, like Shadow got destroyed because of this. The difference between the good players and the weaker players was just too wide, and Blizzard tends to not like that level of variance. We'll have to see whether it's like so spammy it doesn't really matter, and you can't really fail it without not pressing buttons. That's an interesting one. I like that a lot. Dink Donk sounds more funny, though. Okay, here's the warriors. Alright. Colossus. Alright. Just had 2 really decent ones. 3 really decent ones. Here we go. Demolish. Active ability with a 40... So it's a cooldown. Alright. Unleash a series of precise and powerful strikes against your target and enemies within 8 yards of it. So, killing spree, then. Okay, not a great start. Bone Shaker. Shockwave stun is increased by 2 seconds. Okay. Earthquaker. Shockwave also knocks enemies into the air, and its cooldown is reduced. Okay. Your crit strike damage is increased by 10% And your block is increased by 10%. Not looking good, Blizz. Mortal Strike and Shield Slam grant a stack of Colossal Might. Colossal Might increases damage dealt by Demolish and stacks up to 5 times. Okay. Is this because they think warriors are idiots and like counting past 5 is like a challenge? Is that what this is? It kind of feels that way. Shockwave, Cleave, Whirlwind, and Revenge deal 5% more damage. Okay. Arterial Bleed. Colossal Might increases the damage of Rend and Deep Wounds. Okay. Colossal Might increases the damage of Overpower and Revenge. Okay. Total damage prevented by Ignore Pain increased by 15%. Taking damage has a low chance to give you Second Wind for 2 seconds. Okay. Mortal Strike and Shield Slam damage increased by 15%. This is a troll, right? I'm being wound up here. Mortal Strike and Shield Slam crit grants an additional stack of Colossal Might. Okay. Mountain of Muscles and Scars. You deal 5% more damage. There's more effort gone into the names of these talents than the talents themselves. But size increased by 5%. So it's value, right? It's value. The Unstoppable Force. Colossal Might now stacks to 10. We can count past 5. We did it! If you would gain a stack of Colossal Might and are at max stacks, the cooldown of Demolish is reduced by 2 seconds. While channeling Demolish, you are grounded, making you immune to stuns, effects, and move. I really don't like the sound of this. This sounds like this spec has a risk at, like, higher attack levels of just channeling more and not playing your character. I don't like the sound of this at all. This seems like the as time goes on, you play your character less. There's a dev note on it. Where?
This tree lacks the talent to pick up a column and smash with it.
Yeah. I don't see a dev note at the top. Developers note, the warrior tree will be updated in the War Within to make the Shockwave talent more easily accessible. Okay. We wanted to call this out as the Colossus tree interacts with Shockwave in a few places. That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all. Okay, let me just think through this again. So we have a 45-second cooldown killing spree. Okay. Now, you want to use it at 5 stacks initially, right? We gain so you get this stack of Colossus Might, and you gain it from Mortal Strike. And there's another way of getting it, right? No, that does more damage. So, increase the damage of all power revenge. Do you only get it from Mortal Strike? Total damage from... No, there was some other way of getting it. Okay, Mortal Strike crits grant 2 stacks. Okay, so you only get it from Mortal Strike or Shield Slam. Okay, so it can't get that bad. Alright. Well, I mean, the problem is, if you get to the point where your Mortal Strike, certainly from a DPS perspective, is regularly critting, so you're getting 2. So your crit chance will increase over the course of gear. You just start reducing the cooldown of Demolish faster and channeling more. How long does it channel for? Doesn't say. I really don't like this. I really, really don't like this. It feels like a poor man's Fury spec. but Rampage isn't channeled. Imagine if Rampage was channeled. That's what it feels like to me. If Rampage was channeled. Imagine how that would feel. And then the more gear you get, the more you Rampage. Feels like they tried turning the legendary axe into respect, maybe. A rooted channel, even. But you get to block, parry, and dodge. Nothing about this feels good to me. This just feels... Yeah, a worse Fists of Fury. I mean, yeah, true, actually. It does feel a bit like Fists of Fury. It depends how long it lasts, I guess. I mean, they've used the word channeled, so I guess it's going to be at least a few seconds. Yeah, Fist of Fury is a better comparison. They saw how much Warlocks hated channel Demon Fire in Dragonflight and added it to Warrior. Yeah. Yeah, it says here, while channeling Demolish, you are grounded, making you stuns and effects that move you. I think you could still move during this, maybe. Yeah, I think you can move. It's just that you can't be knocked back. So you can utilize it like Icebound Fortitude. You know what I mean? You can use it like that, and you can use it like... Not that warriors have an issue with mobility, right? It's not like warriors have an issue. Yeah, grounded is a bad word. It's not saying you can't move. It just means you won't be able to be stunned or knocked back or blown away by a dragon or anything like that. That's not going to happen to you while you're doing this. So, very similar to Killing Spree in that respect. It should be immovable. Yeah, or unstoppable. Unstoppable would be vague enough so people would get that you're not rooted in some way. Because grounded does give the connotation that you're rooted in some way. I would have just said, while channeling Demolish, you are unstoppable. You cannot be stunned or moved. Or pushed or whatever. So you can bypass death grips and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can move. I'm pretty sure you can move. I think it will feel like Fist of Fury, essentially. You can still be rooted. Yes. It says you are immune to stuns and effects that move you. And root doesn't move you. It prevents you moving. It prevents you moving. So, yes, you can still be slowed and rooted while doing this. I mean, that's the most disappointing one of the day. But I think we'll give thumbs up to... I really want to see Diabolist. Diabolist sounds like it's super fun with cool pets and things like that. And a lot of min-max potential and a lot of windows. That sounds really fun. Bonk Bonk sounds really fun. Unseen Blade. Neither here nor there on that one. Dink Donk sounds great. I like the sound of Dink Donk. I like the sound of the Bloons Sun God. Bloons Sun God sounds really fun. Org. I don't know enough about Orgs, honestly. I need to play some Org. Alex knows a lot about it. He's been playing a lot recently. The bleeds on the bleeds that cause the bleeds sounds massively passive. So, not too exciting because it's mostly passive. And I kind of like the Druid one, the Guardian, the Loon's Chosen. That sounds okay. There's a few things to mess around with in there and give you some nice bonuses. I think gameplay-wise, this will sound very... I think gameplay-wise, this will feel really nice. This will feel really nice. But Warrior is certainly the most disappointing. I don't think I'm being biased there as a Warrior. I just think this sounds fucking miserable. The last thing I want in a Warrior is some channeled spell. That's absolutely not what I want out of a Warrior, is to be channeling. That's not fun. What I like as a Warrior is leaping around and charging, cutting fucking heads off and slamming things. And if that's what I want. I mean, none of these in the Warrior tree sound fun, right? How many just flat damage bonuses are there in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of these talents are just flat damage bonuses. Out of what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 7 out of 11 of them are just fucking flat damage bonuses. But size, though. Yeah, 5% more size. Amazing. Amazing. It matters. Yeah, it matters to me. I want it. I want it. I want it. Yeah, imagine. Imagine being 5% larger all the time. Clearly you think warrior is perfect in order to reinvent the perfect warrior wheel. If I was to picture... I mean, let's spitball this. We're calling it Colossus. What does that spec do? If you think about a Colossus, I'm thinking that your weapon grows. I would love that if your weapon model could grow. Or your character grows so they could just scale it up. I think you have, like... You do something that does cause, like, you to become huge. Like, 10%. And you get to deliver some different type of attack. Some modified version of Mortal Strike. And certainly a giant cleave, right? Because if you think about... mega sword-wielding enemies. So either like the King from Dark Souls 2, or from a movie perspective, probably the big dude who destroys Asgard. You want to do that giant swathing blow, or the fucking massive leaping two-handed strike. Something like that that like devastates and causes a shockwave at the same time. Yeah. Even being able to rip something out of the floor would be cool. So you could do that, right? That would be cool. I would like that, absolutely. Some Colossus or some sort of Colossus foot slam, something like that. But Shockwave now becomes Colossus Smash. Well, we've already got that. Colossal Stomp, where you bang the floor and it knocks everything up in the air and debuffs them for a giant thing. So you grow huge, you stamp the floor, Earthquake goes off, knocks enemies up in the air, or at least debuffs the primary target. And then your weapon like comes crashing down on them. That's Colossus to me. It's giant, mega, two-handed hits. I don't think Demolish fits the theme of a Colossus at all. Unleash a series of precise and powerful strikes. That sounds more like a fencer or a rogue or a dual wielder or some sort of like precision swordsman. That's not what I picture as Colossus. A Colossus is a fucking club monster. I wouldn't even mind. In fact, I'd go a step further with this.
Throwing an owlbear cub at its own mother is peak Colossus. Can they let us do that?
I would say I would have you transform into a series of a variable type of Colossus that has a different weapon than the one that's equipped. So it turns into a mighty club or a mega hammer and deals some... huge attacks. I would even include Horaloo in there. Yeah, so you either turn into an ogre or something like Horaloo, some monstrous Giga Chad creature that punches something. All does the same damage, but I would have that visual theme of some sort of Colossus from history that you turn into. I think that would be sick. I think that would be really cool. You still have all these effects. I actually don't care too much about these passive damage bonuses. I was obviously like better, but thematically, I think Demolish is massively wrong for a Colossus. Demolish feels like it should be something that a Fury Warrior does. Well, they're wild as well. Demolish doesn't fit a Warrior. Yeah, Demolish just doesn't fit a Warrior in my eyes. Like, if there was another Arms Tactician, or maybe change the name. Tactician Warrior might be better. Because Colossus does not strike me as this. If this was Tactician Warrior, that would make a bit more sense to me. Yeah, Avatar was terrible. I was so excited for Avatar, and then you pressed it and you turned grey. And then you turned grey. I was like, oh, okay. What fun this is. I was like, wow, we're going to turn into an avatar of death and go destroying everything. And then you press the button and you just turn grey. And you're like, all right. Maybe the animation looks more Colossus-y than a series of precise make it sounds. Either way, it doesn't matter, right? Like, they might make it, but this sounds just like Killing Spree to me, and it doesn't sound colossal at all. I think this was on the right track. Like, the earthquaking and shockwaving and stuff. I would change Mortal Strike into something else, right? Because this works with arms and prot. Shield Slam would be cool if it turned into like a giant spiky colossal shield, right? And certainly as a tank Colossus, you could turn into like a hulking, like the other Giga Trolls. Something like that would be really cool. You know the big green trolls with the fucking huge tusks? Something like that would be dope. I don't really care about the bonus it provides. These are fine. Boring, but fine. But yeah, I think the theme is wrong. Yeah. There's a bunch of slam attacks like a Feral Legion legendary ability. That'd be Colossus-y. It would just be Rampage then, though. That's what Rampage is. Right? I guess what you were hoping for. I'm looking for more like... Ooh. No, it's a two-hander. None of that fits. It's a two-handed attack. Because it's the arms tree. Yeah, it doesn't fit. I don't like this. Either way, I don't like it. Let me have a pee, and then we're off to DLC World before we do the FF4.